Hello, this is James Himm Mitchell, your intuitive guidance counselor, here with your week in tarot. And this week we're going to be using my long-standing good friend in tarot, the Robin Wood Tarot. And so, deck on the table. I'm going to take the deck and I'm going to shuffle. And if you've been following my videos regularly, then you know how I pull 3 cards for the weekly reading. And the question I have in mind is that I'm asking the tarot, what do we need to know about the week that lies ahead? And so the first card is going to represent what the possible overall experience could be for the week. And as you continue to shuffle, our next card is going to be what tarot is going to offer us as possible guidance or advice. And then the last card will be is if we take tarot up on the advice it's being offered, what a possible outcome could be. So these are our cards for the week. And our first card is the 8 of Pentacles. So now this card is asking us to consider as an overall experience to be mindful of what it is that we're learning. This is a card that can represent like apprenticeship. So going along with that, the idea of an apprentice is that apprentice learns under someone else. So it may be literal for some of us. We may be actually enrolled in school and learning a craft, a trade, or a skill, because that's what this card is talking about, working with a craft, trade, or skill underneath someone else. But in a figurative sense, it's just asking us to pay attention to what life is teaching us. You know, everyone who's here on this planet enrolled, is enrolled in a curriculum of life, and so we are all students of life. So this week we're being asked to kind of pay attention to what it is that life is offering us in terms of lessons. The other thing about the 8 of Pentacles, this is a card about paying attention to the details. If you look at the picture, the young boy on the card is actually doing detail work on the pentacles that he is creating. So this card is asking us to maybe pay attention to the details, be more detail-minded in what we're doing. This card actually is about making money, because if you go with the idea that Pentacles is a suit that represents money and value and worth, then he is actually in the process of making money. So it could be we need to be more mindful of the ability that we have to make money. The number 8 in this regard is a number of personal power. It's a number of abundance too. So usually what I see with this card is that it harkens back to my more traditional spiritual growing up, where you were taught in Christian Bible scripture that we all have the power, going with the 8, to create wealth, and he's in the creative process of wealth. So a couple of things, again, looking at what life is teaching us, if you want to go with the idea that he is a student enrolled in life, or this is the Earth School, so we're all here to learn. So what is it that you're learning? It could be that you need to be more mindful of being detail oriented, and so what are the details that you kind of have been overlooking that you could be paying more attention or give more focus to? And the other aspect of it is like, what do you believe, or what can you do to increase your power to create wealth this week? So that's the 8 of Pentacles. Going with the next card, Judgment. And Judgment is a card that I personally love. So it's kind of interesting. When I was pulling decks or considering decks to use, it was between this and another deck, and the deciding factor was I kept seeing the Judgment card. Actually, I saw it for both, so it was very interesting that the Judgment card is here. But Judgment is a card for me that represents doing a life review. So this is asking us to consider doing an evaluation process. This card is about adopting a new lease on life. And if you look at life maybe being a challenge or a struggle, this is a positive card, because if you look behind the woman, she has the phoenix rising behind her. So there's that visual pun for the phoenix rising up from the ashes, so, and usually the thing about the phoenix rising from the ashes, it rises stronger than it was before. So this card is about resurrection. It's about rising from the ashes. It's about being more powerful than you were prior to. If you go with the Eight of Pentacles, then in this regard, as a learning experience and being the student enrolled in the Earth School of Life, then this card is about passing life's test. So this week we could be needing to look at, facing a critical period in our lives, a time where we are questioning our existence. One of the things about this card for me is that this is a very big existential card. So for me personally, I'm always asking, like, what is my purpose? What am I called here to do? What's my mission in life? That kind of thing. This card could be saying too, with these two cards going hand in hand, that this is a critical period where we are all being called to examine what it is that we are here to do. And as I'm saying that, I'm seeing in my mind something that Oprah says about purpose. Sometimes it's about not just about asking the question about what it is that you're here to do, but getting about the business of doing it. So it could be, these two cards are saying, yes, you're here for a reason. Yes, it's a learning process. It's a time to be honest, but it's also a time to step into your power. Going back to the 8, this is a time to step into your power. So it's about claiming that and then asking yourself, now, okay, once you do that, where do you go from here? This card is about adopting a new lease on life, like I said. So with that, it's about moving into a new direction. Where do you go from here? She's rising, like I said, she's rising out of the cauldron with the phoenix behind her. This card is about overcoming whatever kind of limitations or restrictions that you have in your life, whether they are externally forced on you, which means that they come from, institutions, people, circumstances, situations, or whether they're self-imposed, which means that you put them on yourself. But it's about breaking free from those kinds of things. So that's judgment. And if we do that, then this will be the outcome. Ooh, okay, and we have the 7 of Pentacles here. Very interesting. We have 2 pentacles on each side and going in, numerical sequence. We have the 8 and the 7, or the 7 and the 8, but there's an important numerical sequence here going on. The 7 of Pentacles, if you remember, was a card that showed up in our reading last week. It was in the position of the first card of the overall experience last week. Here it is showing up here at the end result. This card is about reaping a harvest if you go with the line being the way it is. So if we take the time to really step back and ask ourselves, what is life teaching us? And as a student, am I learning the lesson? And if you are, then it comes time to take the test. Judgment is all about the test. And so now understand that you may move through an experience this week in which you are being tested. But the thing about it is that life will give you the same test over and over again until you pass it, because that's the difference between being in school and being a student in the school of life, is that life always gives you the test because it wants you to pass the test. So it may happen again and again and again until you pass the test. And if you take the test and pass the test this week, the 7 of Pentacles is a card that shows you will reap a harvest. This is about hard work paying off. This is about waiting for the results of the test. It reminds me of when I went to school for my master's in psychology, and I did a reading for myself. And the end card was a judgment card. So I know this from my own experience of when this card comes up, it represents being tested and passing the test. But I had a waiting period of, I think, like maybe 2 weeks before I got the call about whether I was going to pass the test or not. So the 7 of Pentacles in this regard is about the possibility of having to wait for the results. But I like this card because it shows that the hard work that you have been putting into your growth and development is about to pay off. This card is about the fruits of your labor, and bearing good fruit and getting a return on the investment that you've been making. So this is a wonderful card. So again, summing up, 8 of Pentacles this week is about seeing yourself as a student enrolled in the school of life and asking yourself, what are you learning? And if you feel that you're not really sure, then it's about observing the details. This card is about getting in there and taking a really close look, not looking at it from a distance, getting in there and looking at it close up. Judgment is all about adopting a new lease on life, understanding that you may experience a challenging test this week, but you have what it takes, going back to the Eight of Pentacles, to pass the test. And if you don't pass it this time, it's okay. Life will bring you the same test again and again until you pass it, because you're meant to move on to bigger and better things. And if you do that, then the Seven of Pentacles as the end result is saying that you will reap a harvest for the seeds that you have sown. This is about hard work paying off, but you may have to wait for the results. But this card is showing that the work that you've been doing in your personal growth and development, you will see it. So these are your cards for the week. This has been your week in tarot. I am James Himm Mitchell, your intuitive guidance counselor, and I look forward to sharing this space here again with you next week. And until then, have a tarot-tastic week and take care.